Welcome. We are visiting the provisions of Indian Evidence Act in reference to the trial in a court of a session. We have seen that at the initial stage itself under section 226 of the Code of Criminal Procedure, public prosecutor is to make it specific. He is to specify the charge which he is going to prove and the evidence in terms of which he is going to prove. That evidence as such has taken us to the Indian Evidence Act. We are visiting the documentary evidence provisions, particularly the secondary evidence in respect thereof. However, now we want to have a general glimpse of the Indian Evidence Act itself. See, the Indian Evidence Act 1872 is a legislation which has three parts. Part 1 is relevancy of facts, and chapters 1, 2, and 3 are constituting this part. Part 2 is on proof, and chapters 4, 5, and 6 constitute this part. Final part 3 is production and effect of evidence, and it is covered in chapters 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. So this is a legislation of 11 chapters, and the last section is 167. See, section 167 is making a complete chapter 11. One full chapter having only single section. See the importance. Importance is evident from the title of it. The title is of improper admission and rejection of evidence. Section 167 is the only section. It is a complete chapter. It says no new trial for improper admission or rejection of an evidence. See the legislative command. See the sanction that no new trial will be there for improper admission or rejection of evidence. This puts us on alert. It makes us conscious that we have to be very, very vigilant. We have to be very much conscious while the evidence is being led during trial. No new trial means once the evidence stands led, then there is going to be no new trial. Once there is a legislative command as a final command in a final section 167, making a final chapter 11. So chapter 11 is a legislation of a single section, and the single section is having a very big final command. No new trial for improper admission or rejection of an evidence. This puts us on alert. It makes us conscious. It puts us on a solemn duty and responsibility while conducting as a prosecutor or a defense counsel. Therefore, the victim, complainant, or the accused on trial, when are being represented by us as prosecutors or defense counsels, then see no new trial is going to be there for improper admission or rejection of an evidence. So how much alert we have to be, how much conscious we have to remain, how much vigilant we should be, how much experience of ours, how much knowledge of ours, how much attention of ours is going to have an effect upon the trial. Because if there is improper admission or there is an improper rejection of an evidence, then it is not going to provide us a next situation for any new trial. Now let me read the text. The improper admission or rejection of evidence shall not be, word is shall not be, ground of itself for a new trial or reversal of any decision in any case. Once evidence stands admitted, may be improperly, and once the evidence stands rejected, may be improperly, then it will not make a ground in itself for a new trial or for reversal of any decision. Justice, as will be done in terms of the evidence which stands admitted, even improperly, or rejected, even improperly, that will not be a ground in itself for a reversal of a decision. Decision is to be reached at as per the evidence led during trial. That is why Section 226 specifically provides that at the outset, on the first date of hearing itself, the public prosecutor shall open the case as to the charge which prosecution is going to prove, and also the evidence in terms of which the charge is going to be proved. It is in terms of this, then the court is to reach at a decision whether accused is to be put upon charge or not, or that accused is to be discharged. And if accused is to be put upon a charge, then what precisely the charge is going to be. In a way, at the initial stage, the appreciation of the prosecution material committed under Section 209 is going to be marshaled, is to be processed, is to be appreciated in terms of the provisions of Indian Evidence Act and other provisions of the Code of Criminal Procedure, provisions of Indian Penal Code or other penal code, as well as in terms of our law of agreements. Therefore, first date of hearing in a way is going to be a big seal upon the fate at the end of the trial. And during the process of the trial, when evidence is going to be laid, then its admission becomes the basic point of determination and appreciation. If there is improper admission or if there is an improper rejection, then it will not going to make a ground in itself. This fact in itself is not going to be a ground for new trial or for reversal of a decision. It shall appear to the court before which such objection is raised that independently of the evidence objected to and admitted, there was sufficient evidence to justify the decision, or that the rejected evidence had not received it, ought not to be have varied the decision. So only clause here, only test being put in here is what is going to be the overall effect of the evidence subject matter of rejection or acceptance, admission. Now, if the total evidential effect of the piece of evidence with respect to which it is being alleged that the same has been improperly admitted or that improperly rejected, if the impact of that piece of evidence in the context of the overall evidence and material on record, if its effect is not of the nature that it will vary the decision itself. So we have to appreciate, we have to be very well conscious while evidence being read, particularly in as to the effect of its admission or rejection. Now, the another specific point of attention here is of chapter 8. Now see, chapter 8 is, these are the subjects. The chapter 8 is the chapter which is of sections 151, 115, 116, and 117. These provisions are the provisions which are constituting chapter 8, and this chapter is titled Estoppel. A stop, a legal stop, legal order that be stopped. Now see, this provision of estoppel has very big range of implications. Let us read section 115, what estoppel is. When one person has, by his declaration, act, or omission, intentionally caused or permitted to another person to believe a thing to be true and to act upon such belief, neither he nor his representative shall be allowed in any suit or proceedings between himself and such person or his representative to deny the truth of that thing. It is a very, very big legislative declaration. Legal impact of it is that if person A makes other person B to believe and to act upon the stand of A, then in any subsequent proceedings, may it be suit or proceedings, the word used is proceedings, that means civil, criminal, or revenue, or any other sort of proceedings, legal proceedings, in which A and B are a party, and if A has made a statement, has made B believe to do or act, and B believing it on that statement of A really acts, then subsequent thereto in any suit or proceedings, A will be stopped from saying that I do not hold that statement, or I want to back out of that statement, or that statement shall not have legal effect upon him. B, who believing A and believing his statement has acted. Once B has acted on the statement, believing that statement of A, if B has already acted, then that thing is complete. It takes us to the law of contracts, the definition of a contract. Therefore, we as criminal lawyers shall have these four acts as an integrated legislative provision: Indian Penal Code, Code of Criminal Procedure, Indian Evidence Act, and Indian Contract Act. These four enactments shall be read thoroughly as the basic principles, the first principles are well legislated with their legal impact. So we shall be through the provisions of the Indian Evidence Act from this point of view. Now see, the Indian Evidence Act is having provisions regarding presumptions to documents. Now we have already seen there are certain presumptions in another enactments, but the Indian Evidence Act is also having its own set of presumptions. These presumptions would mean that there is a truth like that. So these are taken to be true. So these presumptions are to be acted upon. Now here in the Indian Evidence Act, from section 79 onwards up till section 90, there are provisions which make legislative declaration as to the presumptions as to the documents. Section 79, presumption as to genuineness of certified copies. Now see, this in secondary evidence mode of proof, certified copies are one very settled mode of proof. And here in section 79, presumption is being attached as to the genuineness of the certified copies. And section 80, presumption as to documents produced as record of evidence. Now, if evidence already stands recorded in another proceedings, and then copies of the same are produced, then there also will be a presumption, initial presumption will be there that that is the genuine record of the evidence of other previous or parallel proceedings. Then section 81, presumption as to gazetteers, newspapers, private acts of parliament, and other documents. Now here see, a very large number of documents are being given the stamp of presumption. These are with respect to the gazettes and even to the newspapers. Then the private acts of parliament and other documents. See, a very large number of documents have been given the stamp of presumption. Now 81A, presumption as to gazettes in electronic forms. Now in the changed electronic era, this has been further cemented as that there is a seal of presumption as to the gazettes in electronic forms as well. So those gazettes which were originally in a printed form only, and when now these gazettes are in electronic forms, then these electronic forms gazettes as well have been given a seal of presumption. Now 82, presumption as to documents admissible in England without proof of seal or signature. See, this takes us back to the pre-independence era. It takes us back to the year 1872 when this act was framed. Then it brings us to the date of the commencement of the Constitution of India, as Constitution of India has given continuity sanction for the acts and laws which were prevailing on the date of commencement of the Constitution, however subject to the other provisions and sanctions and declarations of the Constitution of India itself. Therefore, the name here only of the England be taken as the sovereign powers prior to the commencement of India, commencement of the Constitution of India was vested in the United Kingdom. That is why this section, and this section has its historic and other legal implications, as well as the Constitution of India has specifically declared the continuity of the laws as those were and in force at the date of commencement of the Constitution of India itself. Now 83, presumption as to maps or plans made by authority of government. Now you know, even the land records and even the maps of the villages, the revenue estates, then districts, then gazetteers, then other geographical maps, then for scientific purposes, for military purposes, and for many other purposes, maps are prepared. When these maps are prepared under the authority of the government, maybe of Government of India, of the governments of the states, of the Dominion of India, these maps as well have been put a seal of presumption under section 83. 84, presumption as to collections of loss and exports of decisions. Now, this section deserves to be read as per its text. Let us read it. This section 84. I'm going through the text of section 84. This section 84 is a section which has its specific language, which has its specific implication. These are, as it is being said, the court shall presume the genuineness of every book purporting to be printed or published under the authority of government of any country and to contain any of the laws of the country, and of every book pertaining to certain reports of decisions of the courts of such country. In India, there is a system, judicial system, which is paying respect, sanctity to the systems of the other countries as well. The whole range of countries of our world as such are being paid proper respect. Indian judicial system is bestowing full respect upon the systems of all other countries. There is no exception. Every book of every country regarding the laws and even regarding the decisions, judicial decisions of the courts of those countries. So, Section 84 is a big seal. It is making Indian judicial system as of a universal values. Indian judicial system is paying full respect for the judicial systems of each and every other country. Therefore, under this seal of presumption, very big burden is removed from the shoulders of the litigants. Litigants have not to prove now, and the courts have to presume in this form the printed or published material under the authority of the court. Therefore, Section 84 shall be taken as the first universal value attached, accepted by the Indian judicial system. Now see, then is Section 85. It is also putting a presumption as to the powers of the attorneys. Now see, wakils, attorneys, advocates, counsels, and authorized persons. The word attorney is a very, very reservoir of the values, where reservoir of the situation, reservoir of documents. Now, the court shall presume that every document purporting to be power of attorney and to have been executed before and authenticated by a notary public or any court, judge, magistrate, or Indian council or vice council or representatives of the central government was so executed and authenticated. See the presumption. See how big is the presumption and how it relieves every litigant from very heavy burden, because to prove whether or not power of attorney being put by any person from either side is genuine or not, in itself will become a full litigation. It will consume enough time, it will be very expensive, and it will be very tiring, and in many cases it will result into failure. So once the presumption stands attached, then the litigation is being put on a straight road and path, and this block regarding the genuineness of the attorneys has been removed. The Section 86 provides presumption as to electronic agreements. It is here where, though the seal of presumption stands attached, but it is a new area, it is new arena, it is new generic of documents, its generation, its creation, its manufacturing, and in many, many ways, lawyers have to be intelligent enough, experienced enough, knowledgeable enough regarding the electronic gadgets, electronic outputs, and once this agreement has been attached a seal of presumption, then naturally much of the burden is removed. However, the responsibility of the attorneys, counsels, and the representatives of the parties stands increased manifold as the rebuttal of the presumption, though is permissible under law, and to rebut such presumption, such legislative presumption, is always very, very difficult. Therefore, it adds to the responsibility of the defense counsel and the prosecutor to be well acquainted, to be well educated, to be well informed, to be well experienced regarding the electronic gadgets, electronic outputs, particularly the electronic agreements. The text reads, court shall presume that every electronic record purporting to be an agreement containing the electronic signature of the parties was so concluded by affixing the electronic signature of the parties. Really challenging. There is a big challenge because on the face of it, this seal as it is bound to create difficulties for many illiterate litigants. Those who are not electronic literate, for them this presumption in the initial phase of 10 to 20 years is going to create a big challenge, and this challenge is to be met only by the counsel, by the attorney. Therefore, Section 85A shall be read by the counsel from the point of view of learning how one shall educate with respect to the execution of the electronic agreements. Legislature has put a seal, and in the wisdom of the legislature, it is all right. It is in continuity of the seals being put under another categories, another generic of documents. However, there is going to be a big gap between the electronic literates and electronic illiterates, and this gap is to be bridged only by the counsel, as the advocates are always fulfilling and bridging the gaps between the knowledge of law and ignorance of law, those law literates and law illiterates. But here, this electronic era has put another responsibility upon the counsel to ensure that this gap does not come in the way of delivery of justice system. 85B, presumption as to electronic records and electronic signature. So it is in continuity, it is to be read along with Section 85A, 85 and 85B, and then 85C as well. So these three sections deserve to be read together, and it shall be read by us as if the legislature has put more burden upon the criminal lawyers in particular. Then 86 onwards are the presumptions which were continuing, which were existing, and the 86 says presumption as to certified copies of foreign judicial records. Practically, it is a much relieving clause. It is really impossible in large number of cases, very large number of cases, when to have agreed regarding the genuineness of the particular records of a particular country. Each country has its own system. Each country has its own credibility. Each country has its own degree of success of the judicial system of that particular country. However, as we have seen early, the Indian judicial system is on the format of a universal system. Indian judicial system is paying equal respect to the judicial systems of all other countries. So this presumption as well deserves to be read and to be appreciated. However, the degree of caution is no more less here as well, because in many situations we need to chase the genuineness, and to rebut such presumptions will naturally are going to be a big challenge for us. Therefore, we as liars, particularly we the liars at initial informative stage of learning and at the initial stage of adding experience and to having enough maturity to the level of the legislative presumptions, we shall read enough, we shall visit these provisions, and we should also sit and to think as to if a situation arises to rebut such presumptions, what steps need to be taken, which sources need to be taped, and in which way we will be discharging our responsibility. Section 87 is presumption as to books, maps, and charts. As we have seen already, it is in continuity. The same observations can be said with respect to them, and in section 88, presumption as to telegraphic messages. Now, here with respect to the telegraphic messages as well, we have to be cautious enough, as the messages will come not only from the different parts of the country itself, but these will be from the different parts of the world.